Welcome to IAS project. In this video, I will give you an introduction to Aryan culture. Before we go into the lecture, please try to answer this question. Consider the following statements regarding Aryan culture. 3 statements have been given here, and the question is which of the statements given above are not correct. So the first statement is Rig Veda was written in classical Sanskrit. The second statement is Sanskrit inscriptions written in early Vedic period were recently found. The third statement is Aryans in Rig Vedic period occupied entire North India but not South India. If you know the answer to this question, please answer it in the comment section. So in our previous videos, we have learned that mature Harappan phase started to decline by 1900 BCE. So the time period of mature Harappan phase was 2600 BCE to 1900 BCE. After 1900 BCE, basically it was late Harappan phase. So during the late Harappan phase, what happened was the economic system, administrative system and the social system that was existing in mature Harappan phase declined. So at the time of late Harappan phase, around 1500 BCE, a new development has happened in the Indian subcontinent. That was nothing but new people have come into the Indian subcontinent, and these people were speaking Sanskrit language. And where did these people come from? They basically came from the northwestern part of subcontinent. So let's see how they came into the Indian subcontinent on the map. So this is basically the northwestern part of Indian subcontinent, and we have many mountain ranges here. For example, here we have Hindu Kush mountains, and here we have Suleiman ranges, and further south we have Kirthar ranges. So through the mountain passes that were existing in these mountains, people have entered into India from the northwestern side. So this is how the Aryans came into India. Where exactly did they come from? We will learn that shortly. So this is basically the direction in which Aryans have entered the Indian subcontinent. So in English, they are called as Aryans. But these people who came into India, they called themselves as Aryas. But today we generally use the word Aryans because the word Aryas has been anglicized into Aryans. So when these Aryans came into India, they initially set up in the eastern part of Afghanistan over here. The eastern Afghanistan region was mainly hills and river valleys. And then immediately afterwards, they moved into Indus plains over here. So these locations are mainly the plains of Indus. So this is how basically when they came into India, they initially set up in the northwestern part, that is nothing but the eastern Afghanistan, and then they entered into the plains of Punjab. Plains of Punjab simply means the plains of river Indus and its tributaries. And then after some time, they started to move into Gangetic plain also. So eventually they spread like this. So this is basically the propagation of Aryans into India and within India. They came from northwest direction. First they set up in eastern Afghanistan, then they moved into Indus plains, and afterwards they moved into Gangetic plains also. This did not happen immediately, but it was a slow process and it took almost 1,000 years. So if we say that it started around 1500 BCE, then after 900 years or so, that is by 6th century BCE, what they did was they almost occupied the entire North India. When they occupied the entire North India, they started to call this place as Aryavarta. Aryavarta simply means the land of Aryas. So we can say that Aryavarta is one of the oldest names for India. India also has some another names which are mentioned in the Aryan literature. Aryan literature is nothing but the literature that was composed by Aryans. Please see here, I am not saying the word written. Okay, I am saying the word composed because Aryans did not write any literature themselves. At that time, writing probably was not invented. That is why it is very suitable to use the word compose, because the way this Aryan literature was transmitted from generation to generation was orally. Okay, it was not written anywhere. So we talked about the name Aryavarta, which mainly meant the northern India. Now let's talk about some of the other names of India which have references in the Vedic literature and also the name that India got from other sources. So Aryavarta is mentioned in Vedic literature. Afterwards, it is also mentioned in Manusmriti. Manusmriti is basically a law book which was written by Manu. We will talk about Manusmriti when we talk about Mahajanapada period. In our previous lectures, we have already talked about the word Meluha. We know that Meluha was the word used by ancient Mesopotamians when they referred to Indus civilization area. So in a way, Meluha or Meluka also is a name of India, or we can say a name of Indian subcontinent, because ancient Mesopotamians did not know much about the people beyond the Indus region. Another common name of India is Bharat. Bharat is also sometimes called as Bharata or Bharatavarsha. India got this name mainly from a tribe of the early Vedic period which was called as Bharatas. Bharata was basically the most powerful and the most dominant tribe during early Vedic period. We will talk about Bharatas more when we talk about early Vedic period in our coming lectures. So early Vedic period is nothing but the Rig Vedic period. We find references to Bharata tribe in Rig Veda also. So wherever Bharatas were living at that time, that area was called as Bharata's land, or we can say Bharatavarsha. Moreover, the Puranas also talk about Bharatavarsha. Puranas say Bharatavarsha is basically the land that is lying between Himalayas in the north and the Indian Ocean in the south. So almost the entire Indian subcontinent can be considered as Bharatavarsha as per Puranas. Another name for India is Jambudvipa, and Jambudvipa has also been mentioned in Vedic texts. So all these names, Aryavarta, Bharatavarsha and Jambudvipa, mainly come from Vedic sources or Vedic literature. If we talk about other names, then we have Hind or Hindustan, which was first used by Persians. Persians are nothing but Iranians. We know that the local people who were living near the Indus River called this river as Sindhu. But Persians did not call this river as Sindhu, but they called it as Hindu. So whatever was the land that was lying to the east of river Sindhu or river Hindu, they called that land as Hind. And Hind eventually became Hindustan. During the medieval times, Mughals also used the word Hindustan to refer to the land of India. Now after Persians, Greeks also came into India. For example, the most famous Greek was Alexander. Alexander was technically from Macedonia, okay? Even before Alexander, the Persian kings have sent some ambassadors or let's say explorers into India. Some of these explorers were Greeks. So these people called the river Sindhu as Indus. So Persians were calling the river as Hindu, whereas the Greeks were calling the river as Indus. So when river Sindhu became Indus, the land became India. So it was basically Greeks and then later Europeans also who gave the name of the land as India. So the names Hind, Hindustan and India are actually named by people who are foreign to India. Hind and Hindustan were originally named by Persians and later they were also used by Mughals. Whereas the name Indus and India were first used by Greeks and then later they were also used by other Europeans like British, French and others. Another name for India is Nabhivarsha. Nabhivarsha name for India is mainly found in Jain literature. So all these are names basically which refer to a part of India or whole of India. However, the official name for India will only come from Constitution of India. Particularly, if we talk about Article 1 of Indian Constitution, then Article 1 says that India, that is Bharat, shall be the union of states. So in Constitution of India, we have two names for India. One is India and the other is Bharat. So this is about the different names that are used for India. Please also remember the time period or the order of these names. Meluha was probably the earliest name for India. After Meluha, we have three names, Aryavarta, Bharatavarsha and Jambudvipa. All these three names have their origin in Vedic literature. After Vedic period, we have the Persian invasions into India. During Persian invasions into India, the names were Hind and Hindustan. After Persian invasions into India, we have Greek invasions into India. During Greek invasions, we have the names Indos and India. Then finally, we have Constitution of India, which gives the official name India, that is Bharat. So we have learnt that Aryans came from northwestern side of India and they first settled in eastern part of Afghanistan. Then they moved into the plains of Indus River and its tributaries. And eventually they moved into Gangetic Plains also and occupied the entire North India. But the important question is, where did these people exactly come from? They entered through northwestern part of India, but where did these people come from? Or we can ask, what is the home of Aryans? So the home of Aryans is a very highly debated topic. So therefore, we have many theories for the home of Aryans. The first and the most important theory probably is Central Asia as home of Aryans. The most important proponent of this theory is Max Muller. So Max Muller said that the original home of the Aryans was Central Asia. And from Central Asia, migrants mainly spread in two directions. They moved west into Europe. They moved into south, or let's say southeast, into India. We must note that these people also moved into West Asia. But Max Muller mainly said that from Central Asia, some people moved into Europe and some people migrated into India. How do we know that this theory has some weightage? We know that this theory has some weightage because this theory is largely supported by studying the Indo-European languages. Examples of Indo-European languages can be, for example, English, Spanish, German, and other languages in Europe. In case of Asia, we have Persian. In case of India, we have languages like Hindi, Bengali, Marathi, Gujarati, Rajasthani, and many other North Indian languages. All these languages basically fall under the family of Indo-European languages. So by studying words in these different Indo-European languages, many of these words have same origin. That is why all these languages came from a single group of people, and those group of people were nothing but Aryans. A very good example of this has been given in new NCERT book. For example, the word Matra in Sanskrit means mother. In Hindi, we call it as Mata. In English, we say mother. In German, we say Mutter. So similarly, many words in all these languages either sound similarly or have similar roots. Another evidence that supports this theory is the archaeological evidence. We will talk about archaeological evidence in our further videos. And the latest evidence is basically the evidence that has been proved by DNA studies. DNA studies have proved that the people of this region or people who are speaking these Indo-European languages have got some common genes which are not there in people who are speaking other family of languages. That is why Central Asia as home of Aryans theory is the most supported theory today. Another important theory on home of Aryans is given by Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Bal Gangadhar Tilak supported that Aryans came from Arctic region. And he supported this based on the astronomical information that has been provided in the Aryan literature. So in one particular instance of Aryan literature, it was written that at the original home of Aryans, it used to be 6 months day and 6 months night. We know from our geography knowledge that this kind of day and night basically exists at poles. That is why Bal Gangadhar Tilak came to the conclusion that Aryan people came from Arctic region. Another important theory on home of Aryans was given by Swami Dayanand Saraswati. Swami Dayanand Saraswati also studied Vedic literature and then he supported that Aryans came from Tibet. The last important theory is Indian theory, which is also called as indigenous people theory. This theory was mainly supported by Dr. Sampurnanand, A.C. Das and some others. Indian theory basically states that Aryans did not come from outside. They were existing in India, that is in the region of Indus and its tributaries, and from there they spread into different parts of North India. This is what India as home of Aryans theory states. India as home of Aryan's theory is also based on Vedic literature only. Aryans spoke Sanskrit language. What is Sanskrit? Sanskrit is a language that belongs to Indo-European family of languages. Please note the word family here. We know that India has many languages. Are all of these languages belonging to Indo-European family of languages? No. But most of the languages that are spoken in India today belong to Indo-European family of languages. Actually, about 75% of people today in India speak languages that belong to Indo-European family of languages. For example, Hindi, Rajasthani, Gujarati, Bengali, Marathi, all these languages come under Indo-European family of languages. If we talk about South Indian languages, then those languages belong to Dravidian family of languages. For example, Telugu, Tamil, Kannada and Malayalam belong to Dravidian family. If we talk about many northeastern languages, they belong to Sino-Tibetan family. Whereas the tribal languages of Jharkhand mainly belong to Austroasiatic family. Please note that Dravidian languages are spoken not only in South India but also in other places also. For example, in Balochistan, we have a language called Brahui. Brahui is also belonging to Dravidian family. But Brahui is actually a language which is spoken by people living in the hills of Balochistan. I am telling you about this because you need to know this mainly from two subjects point of view in the exam. The first one is art and culture and the second one is Indian society, which is basically a part of GS paper 1. From art and culture point of view, you need to focus on what is required for prelims. From Indian society point of view, you need to know from mains point of view that what are the different languages that are spoken in India and where are they spoken. And you have to give special focus to tribal people and their languages. So Aryans spoke Sanskrit and Sanskrit belongs to Indo-European family of languages. Let me give you further detail about Indo-European family of languages. So whenever we say a family of languages, there are many groups or many branches within this family. One particular branch of Indo-European family of languages is Indo-Iranian branch. And within a branch, we have many subgroups. Okay, one such subgroup in Indo-Iranian branch of languages is Indo-Aryan languages. Indo-Aryan languages are also called as Indic languages. So Sanskrit is basically an Indo-Aryan language. So Aryans spoke Sanskrit and Aryans composed what is known as Vedic literature in Sanskrit. And Vedic literature is very important because it is the most important source for us to understand and to study Aryan culture. Archaeological evidences of Aryan culture are actually very less. That is why we rely more on Vedic literature. We can call Aryan culture as Vedic culture also. So whenever we say Aryan culture or Vedic culture, both mean the same thing. To be particular, the Sanskrit that was used in Vedas was actually Vedic Sanskrit. Vedic Sanskrit is actually called as Old Sanskrit or Archaic Sanskrit. Archaic simply means old. Please note that Vedic Sanskrit is not classical Sanskrit. It is also not the Sanskrit that we speak today. It is entirely different and it is very old or very archaic form of Sanskrit that was used by Aryans during that time. Let me ask you a question. What is the main difference between Vedic Sanskrit and classical Sanskrit? Please write the answer in 1 or 2 lines in the comment section. I will give you a hint. Think about Ashtadhyayi. So the Aryans composed Vedic literature and Vedic literature actually consists of 4 Vedas and also the literature that is allied to all these 4 Vedas. These allied literature is nothing but Brahmanas, Aranyakas and Upanishads that are associated with each Veda. We will talk about different Vedas as well as different allied literature in our coming videos. So Aryans came into India roughly around 1500 BCE and by 600 BCE they spread throughout the North India. The time period between these two timelines is simply called as Vedic period. In our next video, we will start with the first part of Vedic period, which is also called as early Vedic period or Rig Vedic period. Please like and subscribe. You can download this presentation from our Telegram channel. The name of the channel is IAS Project. You can find the link for this channel in the description section below.